Hello, everybody out there. Welcome to Engineering Tech with Mike Antosh, powered by ProLytX. We're here today trying something new. I'm in the studio today with Blake Biernacki, and Blake and I are both members and leaders within the ProLytX organization, a company focused on engineering tech. And we're in an industry where there's generally not a lot of information shared and a lot of open discussion. And luckily, though, we've had the opportunity over the past 7 years to really broaden our horizons. And if you've ever wondered what it might be like for one of these engineering office type people, engineering nerds, to have a podcast and share all their crazy stories about the office, that's what we're going to try to do, and try to put some information down that's helpful for people in the industry, maybe those considering it, or just share knowledge, and then eventually we'll get some other folks on the line, and we'll compare notes and talk about it. So I've got Blake Biernacki in here with me today.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, our purpose here today, I think we're going to lay down like a foundation, a beginning of this podcast, Engineering Tech, and where better to start with ProLytX. So I guess we're talking about like what is it like to work in the engineering business? What's working well? What's not? What's interesting? Maybe if someone has a great story about spray paint, we'll get into it. But the first intent is some valuable, content for people, with their careers.
Okay, I was confused.
Okay. Yes.
Good.
Okay. So. Full disclosure, I'm the VP of sales for ProLytX, and my background is project engineering, automation engineering, and then project engineering. I did some time offshore, which was really cool. Got into databases and analytics and software development, and through all of that, enjoyed talking to people. And come to find out that's really important for what I do now, which is to try to explain a lot of our offerings. But and I may go into that a little bit more. But I guess give the audience an intro about yourself.
Yeah. So I started out in the industry, is working in the field as an instrument tech. So I got an associate's degree in instrumentation technology. I did that for a number of years, and then got into control system and design and engineering and instrument engineering and design. So I worked at some owners out there in like chemical plants, and then moved over more to the contractor EPC side of things. Did that for a number of years. I also worked at a software provider for some of these engineering applications. I worked with them for a while until we started up ProLytX, and that's kind of how we got here. Yeah, the idea, I guess you could say, behind ProLytX is basically if I had to like narrow it down in a small nutshell, the idea is that the owners. Right now the owners own all the assets, of course, because they're the ones that own the facilities and the manufacturing process and everything. But as technology has advanced, everybody moves into the data world, if you will. And so the idea there is the owners don't just own the technology. They actually own the data, and they own the process by which that data is created. And I think that's a little different idea than it has been in the past. In the past, EPCs would build these facilities and then turn it over to the owners, and then the owners would operate it. But they would be building them for the owners, right? And it just never seemed like there was a connection there. And so what we're trying to do at ProLytX is empower the owners to understand that information, that data that is actually going into those facilities is their information and data for them to utilize for the life cycle of the plant. and then bridge that gap between the engineering side of that and the IT side of that. Because a lot of times inside these facilities, it falls on IT's responsibilities because it's a database or it's software or something of that nature. But it's engineering data and it's engineering software. So
I think you went pretty deep, pretty fast there. I think there's a whole part of this discussion that could merit a little bit of background, which is like for me, I was working projects and then somebody gave me access to a database, one of the databases behind the project, because I needed to get information to do my work. And getting into that was cool because it was a part of doing my job that now I could write a little tool that could grab information, then I could use that to do my job, which was really exciting. And then I think from my personal experience, our company at the time, Mustang Engineering, started a group specifically to manage this tech, the tech of the company. And to me, that piqued my interest. I was interested in switching departments and getting into that. And I think your story, you were working and sort of inherited one of these tools where you had to learn sort of the nerds, the tech side of the tool, plus do your job. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you were thrown into it essentially, because I mean, the engineering tech space, there's not really like a degree for that. There's not a planned path as to how you become sort of that middle ground between what engineers do and what IT does.
No,
right?
And yeah, I'm not exactly sure why that is the case, but that is the case in the industry right now. Is that there is not like a degree, like a specific degree path. A lot of times people think that software is owned by IT, and then engineers do calculations and create drawings and stuff like that. But what's happening in the industry is a lot of those softwares are becoming more smart and intelligent.
Well, I think one of the reasons that there isn't necessarily a clear path to it is because the most successful people in that space that we've seen come from having such good field experience or background experience, fundamentals of what they're trying to accomplish. So it's hard to just create someone right into the space of being an engineering tech administrator when they don't necessarily understand the engineering side of it. Is that right? So like the computer science degree or the traditional tech style degree or an IT degree, it's hard to prepare someone for, piping or equipment or instrumentation discussions. And so for you were working at a company, they adopted one of these smart softwares or had to do it for a project. You were the guy that had to set it up and make it work. And then realized that's a skill in itself. The setup and administration and running a sophisticated tool like that was an instrumentation database. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. And for me, I was already on projects and I just wanted to get information out of that same type tool, got the access to the database, and then started writing tools. And transferred my career from being a project person to being an administrator. And I mentioned earlier, I like to go around and talk to people, or through our, one of the things now is to talk to different people in different roles in the industry. Moving into that administrator or tech space was cool for me because project to project, my job, I was able to now to have a job that interfaced with most of the projects that our company had. So to go around and talk to different people every day and see what challenges they were facing was kind of a cool aspect. And I've kind of carried that forward to where we are today, which is to now talk to different clients and see what their experiences are, and sort of understand a little bit wider view. Because I don't think people understand when you're in a project-driven company and you're a project person, you may spend 18 months, you may spend 3 years, 5 years on one, basically dedicated to one project, right?
Yeah.
So then I think the next question is, what actually precipitated the formation of ProLytX as a company, as opposed to just being an engineering tech person, working in the industry. What's the origination? Let's talk a little bit about the creation of the company.
Well, the idea behind creating the company came from the fact that the EPCs can't really do it, because if they do it, what they'll do it around is internally, and I did go internal to some of the companies that I worked at previously and pitch this idea of creating like an entity inside of them. The problem with that is, though, it's always the fox watching the hen house, if you will, right? So that little entity would be controlling the owner's information and the owner's data, but the EPC itself would have an idea that they want that information to leverage it to build something for that owner, or to sell something to that owner, or kind of control the information around the site for the owner.
Well, what you're saying when you say an entity, you mean like a support group, like a tech group that's administering data tools and things like that. So you're saying the engineering companies have these people and they do a great job with it. They use it for a purpose of delivering projects.
That's right.
So there are a lot of people like us who work in the industry and they're on the engineering side and they help deliver these big projects. But then on the owner-operator side, that side of the industry is still figuring out that skill set, sort of trying to put it into place, sometimes doing it with IT, sometimes trying to figure out how to get people involved. And you're saying for the EPC to provide that as a service is a bit of a conflict.
It's a bit of a conflict to them, right?
Because these owners may have a whole bunch of different engineering companies that are going to work with them,
correct.
Right?
They got a bunch of different engineering companies. They got other projects going on. A lot of times those projects are using companies that make conflict or are competitive with the EPCs, right? That would be hosting that, if you will, or administratively supporting it. And then on the owner side, like you said earlier a minute ago, that they normally would do that with like an IT type resource, which you lose all the domain knowledge as far as what the engineering knowledge is or design knowledge is, or they don't have the resources at all, or they don't even know that like technology exists.
So we were trying to talk about the original conception, and so what you're saying is, and I guess you spent time overseas with a major project, right? Where you got to see the transition from the engineering company into the owner trying to take this massive digital project and put it into work for themselves for the long run. And then you also got to work at a software company where you went around to try to help understand that part of the industry too. So what did you see during that process?
What I saw there is that on that side of it, on the owner-operator side of it, there's two main issues. One of them is they either try to handle it, like I said, like through an IT organization. So IT would control the applications used. IT would control the data used, and how that interfaced and connected with their workflows and processes. The issue there is that the IT organizations don't have the domain knowledge to understand how the information is being authored. So how is the engineering being done? What does that data actually mean? What value it brings to the business?
Well, you're talking about an IT organization that's also handling the email inboxes. They're handling communications. Yeah. They're handling basic computer virus type stuff. And so
that's right. To
ask them to also understand a piping drawing or an equipment layout or something it's challenging world to now own that, right?
That's right. Okay. And then two would just be like resource. Like the limited ability to have the resources available needed to support that, and the knowledge base behind those resources.
Okay, so that to you signified a gap in the industry where there's room there for an agnostic sort of third party to be a facilitator between all of this great work that the engineering companies are doing, and then what the owners are trying to accomplish with that data, and put these systems into place and kind of just help an owner, regardless of who's going to use it, right?
That's right.
Set something up for an owner-operator. And when we say owner-operator, we mean like Exxon or Chevron or Valero.
Shell,
Yeah.
Valero, that's right.
And just basically be a helper to those guys. Phone a friend if they need it.
That's right.
Give advice, speak on their behalf, help make the translation from what the engineering companies are doing into the world that the owner is doing.
That's right.
And that world becomes additionally complex because they're trying to run the plant, right?
Yeah, for the whole life cycle. So the plant could last, 50 years.
Right, and your typical focus has always been on get the control system up and running, maintain the equipment, handle the staff. I mean, everything around running an actual facility. So the data kind of got left behind at times in the past. Some of the engineering data, and that's like solving that problem is part of this value
Solving
proposition.
that problem is part of it. I don't know if the data necessarily got left behind, but it was dispersed, right? And it was dispersed in documents. So they instead of having data, they would get handed over like massive amounts of documents from these engineering companies, right? Be it P&ID drawings, loop drawings, equipment specs, whatever. It would all just come in the form of documents. Now there's a shift in that because what the owners would do, right, is they would take all those documents and then they would try to take certain data points out and then get that into their asset management systems or get that into their maintenance management systems to maintain the facility. Well, now there's a shift on that side where they realized, hey, what we're doing is we're taking a number of documents, pulling data out to put into these other systems. What if we just took data? And then we wouldn't have that intermediate step. And are there intelligent design and engineering systems out there that just house the data? So like an enterprise system that houses the data. Example of that would be like smart plant instrumentation or smart plant P&ID or Aspen Tech, right? Or some Aviva products where they're no longer document-centric but data-centric.
Now, what about EPCs trying to master their craft, maybe adopt some of these things to better suit the the goals of the owner? I mean, we provide help to those companies, sort of, or ProLytX provides help to those engineering companies trying to make sure that they are also moving in the right direction with these tools and with this overall initiative, right?
Yeah, and I think that's some of the larger like EPCs are kind of already using some of those applications just because it enhances their workflows and they're doing these major projects. Some of the smaller EPCs are not, right? And they're still doing it more of a document-centric way. The issue with that is the more of these owners that start going to a data-driven approach to their engineering and design, the less standard documentation that you're going to have. So these EPCs that aren't doing that have a gap themselves to fill, to switch over to those more intelligent design systems. So ProLytX will also help them make that switch and help them adjust their workflows and their processes.
Yeah,
and support them along the way.
Ultimately help that handover, that connection between the two sides of this
right.
story, I think, right?
That's right.
Okay. Cool. Well, sometimes we hear people try to look at the name and try to figure out how to pronounce it. I've heard ProLytX. I've heard ProLytX. But I think there's a reason that the name came together, and then it kind of helps you pronounce it too. So tell me about the reason.
So it's pronounced ProLytX, and it's professional analytics. And so the reason those two names kind of come together in professional and analytics is doing a type of data analytics is, there's like hundreds of companies out there that do data analytics. Almost all of them, or a large percentage or majority of them, is on the finance side of the financial industry. Think like Wall Street and whatnot. There's a number of companies that do that. Doing that with inside the engineering space, it seems to be limited, and I think that's because, like I said earlier, it used to be more of a document-centric approach to things, but the more data-centric approach, the more these enterprise applications like the Hexagon applications and Aviva applications are used, the more you can actually do advanced analytics on your data, especially if the owners use it and tie it in to some of their other systems. Then they can start doing, advanced analytics on maintenance routines, advanced analytics on process conditions and process control that they weren't able to do before. And that's the end game, right?
So professional analytics, that sounds like, today that's a hot topic, data analytics. It sounds easy. There are a lot of educational programs, a lot of buzzwords related to that. But I think the question, and you hit on it there a little bit, you've got, and you do have some data coming from your control systems that it's been smart data for many years because it's coming out of an electronic system that's running the plant. But then the document story you told just a minute ago sort of also tells you a little bit about the other side, which is what information is available when you want to do analytics on your engineering and you want to check the quality, or you want to adjust, or evaluate the effectiveness of the way your plant was designed or the way it's being managed. How did the beginning of that go? In terms of being able to say, okay, in 2016, we're a professional engineering analytics. What data was available for us to work on?
Well, there's two problems there, I think. One is what data is available, and the other one is what data can actually be trusted. And then can you do the analytics on it? So a lot of times what we see when we get in some of these facilities that are already existing and that have been around for a while, the data that they have is lacking, I guess you can say, from an engineering standpoint. We go into a lot of these facilities and we hear from maybe the corporate level or a higher up level that their master data is their asset management system, right? So their asset management system houses all of the information they need for their equipment, their instrumentation, so on and so forth. You get into the actual sites though and start talking to the guys that are maintaining the facility, and they say that the master information is almost always in a document control world, right? And then you look at the information in all these different worlds, and what you find is that your asset management systems like your SAP or your Maximo really only has like 10 or 15 data points that they need from an engineering and design perspective. And so in half of the time that information is missing or it's not there. And so then you go down to your document control, but then since it's documents centric, what you have is duplicated information. So you might have 3 spec sheets or 3 equipment spec sheets for the same piece of equipment. And then it's, which spec sheet is the latest and which is the trusted, most valuable information. Or it's just not even there. And they have to go out into the field and field verify it, if you will.
So I think, living through that experience, we brought together 5 colleagues who had a lot of project experience, a lot of technology experience, and were ready to attack this engineering analytics concept. And I think what was realized in that early phase was we got to help some people build a foundation before there's a lot of analytics to do. And staffing wise, we ended up realizing, I guess, when you're engineering tech, it's primarily like administrators and developers, right? Back inside of like in our history at Mustang, that's where we felt like we were is in more of an administrative group. So putting that group out into a company and saying, look, this group is available to do advanced analytics and everything like that, took a little while to find the right customers to be able to implement those type of solutions. So there's work there in drawing conversions and data build outs and surveys, right?
Yeah, I think what you're kind of getting at there is when we originally started out, we were wanting to do this advanced analytic information because a lot of us were coming from the EPC world, where we had been using these utilities and these data-centric design and engineering applications. And then we got into the owner world and really realized that, hey, they're lacking a lot of information. So we had to step back and say, hey, well, to do these advanced, process controls, to do these advanced, maintenance analytics, you first have to have a solid foundation. And so we started helping build that foundation for those companies.
I think that helped build out a more well-rounded team. Gave us the opportunity to bring in some traditional engineers and designers and some junior team members to sort of build up to and grow. So that was, to me, that was all going back to that name of professional analytics. I would say we've done plenty of things that weren't professionally analytical. They were, well,
not necessarily.
I guess
Drawing PNIDs with drafters inside of an intelligence system, you might not say that that's very analytical necessarily. That's almost just standard design and drafting type work.
Well, I think what we
that foundation is important though. If you don't have it, you can't do the professional analytics.
Oh, well, I think we were in the beginning hungry for opportunities, so much so that we had a motto that said, to get that first opportunity, because you're just looking for a chance, we'll cut the grass if that's the right thing to do. Like, give us an opportunity to show you that we're going to do a quality job. So if it's drawing a drawing or moving something for you or cutting the grass, we just wanted a chance to get in and prove that we had the right attitude, I think, to help somebody, right?
Yeah, I think that attitude comes from a place though that you're really trying to help advance your clients and the people that you're working for, right? So if they don't have the adequate information or resources or whatnot to be able to do that advanced analytics, then help them build it and help them realize the actual potential of what it could do for them, right? It could help them make their products safer. It could help them, cut costs in a way that maintenance intervals are reduced or downtime in their facilities are reduced. There's a number of benefits to having that advanced, foundational data set that they do not get if they don't have that. So
yeah. Okay, one simple note. I think we wanted to just, the logo, it's a pretty simple logo. Originally created, I think, in a Word document, but now has been added to a little bit. It's been churched up a little bit. Tell me a little bit about the. I guess really the X is becoming the signature logo of ProLytX. Is that right?
Yeah, the X, two different colors with the arrows. That basically signifies the closing of the gap between the engineering and the IT, your systems world. Right, that's what we're trying to do right now.
Well, I think what we wanted to do with this first discussion was hear some of the basics and understand how ProLytX came to be where we are today. And so, Blake, was there anything else you wanted to share at the moment?
No, appreciate you having me out to do this, and hope this podcast works out.
Yeah, well, we're going to see. This is going to be a combination of discussions about the work that ProLytX is doing, but also the work that's happening in the industry. And as Blake said, there's a real transfer or an important sort of handoff between the engineering teams, what their goals are, and the IT teams that enable those. We recently went to Denver, and we participated in an event, gave a presentation at a Digital Wildcatters event, and we sort of used the quarterback analogy, and that's what the ProLytX team goal, I think, has been, is to be a bit of a quarterback to connect engineering and IT, navigate the challenges that they're facing, and lead them to success. So appreciate you guys taking a chance or the time to listen to this. And this is us kind of stepping out and doing something new, trying to put some of our thoughts down in a format that's a little bit, hopefully, more engaging than PowerPoint. And we're going to see where we can take it. So we look forward to talking in the future. Thanks for joining us for the Engineering Tech #1. Thank you.